the Hawaiian Islands. They're remote, isolated. So, how did anyone even find them? These dots of land, sprinkled across the vast Pacific, weren't always inhabited. They were waiting for the right moment in history to be discovered and settled.
Around 1,500 years ago, brave Polynesian voyagers, masters of navigation by the stars and currents, set out on an incredible journey. They made their way across the ocean in large double-hulled canoes. Imagine that journey. The vastness of the sea stretching endlessly before them, the courage it took to leave everything you knew behind, to venture into the unknown.
These early settlers coming from the Marquesas and later Tahiti brought with them more than just their belongings. They brought their culture, their language, their gods, and their way of life. They landed on the shores of these pristine islands, starting a new chapter in human history, one that would shape the future of these islands.
They called this place Hawaii, a name echoing the mythical homeland from which they believed their ancestors came. This new land was a canvas for their dreams and aspirations.
Life was hard but rewarding. They fished the abundant waters, learned to cultivate the fertile volcanic soil, growing crops that would sustain them. They built a society in harmony with the land and the sea. They lived by the aina, the life-giving force that connected them all. Their respect for nature ran deep, a value that continues to resonate with the Hawaiian people today. This connection to the land and sea is a legacy that endures.
These early settlers weren't just surviving, they were thriving. They built temples called heiau, where they honored their gods and sought guidance. They developed a complex social structure with chiefs, priests, skilled artisans, and farmers, all playing a vital role in their community. Their society was intricate and well organized, ensuring that everyone had a place and purpose.
This was the world that greeted the first Europeans, a world untouched by the conflicts and complexities of the West. It was a world of harmony, balance, and deep connection to nature, a stark contrast to what the Europeans knew. The ancient Hawaiians didn't have a written language as we know it. Instead, they relied on the power of oral tradition to preserve their rich history and culture. Their history, their beliefs, their stories were all passed down through generations by word of mouth, through chants, songs, and dances. These performances were not just artistic expressions, but vital cultural practices that ensured the survival of their heritage. Imagine the responsibility, the pressure of being a living library. Elders were the keepers of knowledge, entrusted with the sacred duty of remembering and recounting the tales of their ancestors, of holding the history of your people in your mind. Every detail, every nuance had to be preserved accurately, for any loss could mean the erasure of a part of their identity. These oral traditions, known as mo'olelo, weren't just stories for entertainment. They were the lifeblood of the community, serving as educational tools and moral compasses. They were lessons, warnings, reminders of their past, and guidelines for the future. Through mo'olelo, the young learned about the values and principles that would guide them throughout their lives. They told of gods and goddesses, of heroes and ancestors, their deeds and misdeeds shaping the Hawaiian worldview. These stories were more than myths. They were the foundation of their spiritual and social life. The Hawaiians were keen observers of nature. They understood that their environment was a living entity filled with signs and messages from the divine. Their gods, like Pele the volcano goddess and Cain, the god of creation, were embodied in the natural world around them. The landscape itself was a sacred text filled with stories and lessons. The wind, the rain, the waves crashing on the shore, all held meaning, all whispered stories of the divine. Every natural phenomenon was a reminder of the god's presence and power. Life wasn't all myths and legends. The Hawaiians also had to navigate the practicalities of daily living. They had a structured society, a system of governance known as the kapu system. This system was intricate and deeply rooted in their spiritual beliefs. These weren't just laws, they were sacred rules that governed every aspect of life, from how to fish to who you could marry. The kapu system ensured that everyone knew their place and their duties. Violating a kapu could have dire consequences, often leading to swift and severe punishment. This strict adherence to the kapu system maintained social order and harmony. It was a system that kept order, but one that would be challenged as the world outside their islands began to encroach. The arrival of Europeans brought new ideas and technologies, forever altering the Hawaiian way of life. By the late 18th century, the Hawaiian Islands weren't a unified entity. Think of it more like Game of Thrones, with different islands, different chiefs, all vying for power, for control. Into this arena of conflict stepped a leader who would change the course of Hawaiian history, Kamehameha. Born on the big island of Hawaii, Kamehameha wasn't destined for rule. In fact, his birth was marked by a prophecy, a celestial sign that foretold the rise of a powerful leader. Some chiefs saw this as a threat, even attempting to have him killed as a child. But Kamehameha survived, a testament to the destiny that awaited him. Kamehameha was a skilled warrior, a shrewd strategist, and a charismatic leader. He began uniting the islands one by one, often through brutal warfare. He wasn't afraid to use force, but he also understood the power of alliances, forging strategic partnerships that helped him consolidate his power. One of the most pivotal moments in his campaign was the acquisition of Western weaponry. He saw the advantage these new weapons provided and used them to his advantage. By 1810, after years of conflict, Kamehameha had achieved what no one thought possible. He unified all the Hawaiian Islands under his rule, establishing the Kingdom of Hawaii. Section 4. The Islands Meet the World. Remember those brave Polynesian sailors who first discovered the Hawaiian Islands? For centuries, they were the only ones who knew the way, who held the secret of these islands in their hearts. But in 1778, the world changed. Captain James Cook, a British explorer, stumbled upon the islands during his voyage in the Pacific. Imagine the shock, the wonder on both sides. The Hawaiians, who had known only their own world, their own ways of life, were suddenly confronted with these pale-skinned strangers. Cook, for his part, was equally astonished, finding a paradise he never imagined existed. This encounter, this meeting of two worlds, would have profound consequences. Cook's arrival opened the floodgates. Soon more ships followed, drawn by the allure of the islands, the promise of trade, and the strategic importance of this newfound land in the vast Pacific. The arrival of Europeans brought trade. Western goods, from metal tools to woven fabrics, began to flow into the islands, changing the way of life for the Hawaiian people. But it also brought diseases. Smallpox, measles, influenza, diseases that the Hawaiians had no immunity to, ravaged the population. It's a tragic story, repeated throughout history, the unintended consequences of contact, of progress. Section 5. The Gospel and the Gun. The arrival of Europeans wasn't just about trade and exploration, it marked the beginning of a profound transformation for the Hawaiian Islands, one that would intertwine commerce, culture and faith in ways previously unimaginable. It was about something more profound, something that would leave an indelible mark on the Hawaiian people religion. The missionaries who came were not just adventurers or traders, they were men and women on a divine mission. Missionaries, driven by faith and a desire to spread the Christian gospel, saw the Hawaiian people as ripe for conversion. They believed they were bringing enlightenment and salvation to a people they considered lost. These missionaries, mostly from New England, arrived with their Bibles and their hymns, ready to save souls. They brought with them not just religious texts, but also a new way of life, one that would challenge and eventually change the Hawaiian culture. They saw the Hawaiian religion, with its many gods and goddesses, its rituals and ceremonies, as heathen, as something to be replaced with the true faith. The missionaries were determined to eradicate what they saw as pagan practices and replace them with Christian worship.
The Hawaiians, their own traditional belief system already weakened by disease and cultural disruption, were receptive to the new religion. The arrival of Europeans had brought diseases that decimated the population, leaving the survivors searching for answers and comfort. Christianity offered solace, a sense of hope in the face of devastating losses. The promise of eternal life and a loving God was appealing to a people who had suffered so much. Churches were built, hymns were translated into Hawaiian, and gradually the islands underwent a spiritual transformation. The new religion began to take root, changing the social and cultural landscape of Hawaii.
But this conversion wasn't always peaceful or voluntary. There were instances of coercion and pressure, as the missionaries believed they were saving souls and were willing to go to great lengths to achieve their goals. The missionaries, often allied with powerful businessmen and landowners, exerted their influence on the Hawaiian monarchy. They formed a powerful alliance that would shape the future of the islands. They pushed for Western-style laws, education and land ownership, often at the expense of traditional Hawaiian practices and beliefs. The introduction of Western education systems began to erode the traditional ways of life. This period, a clash of cultures and beliefs, laid the groundwork for the turbulent century that would follow. The imposition of new laws and customs created a cultural rift that would have lasting repercussions. It was a time when the old ways were being challenged, when the very soul of Hawaii was up for grabs. The struggle between maintaining traditional Hawaiian culture and adapting to new influences was intense and often painful. And in the background, the shadow of a new power loomed, the United States of America. The influence of America would grow, eventually leading to the annexation of Hawaii and the end of its sovereignty as an independent kingdom.